No. We have the Associate Justice of the Supreme Court that has joined us.
All right, so
I appreciate you.
All right, we're live on YouTube, and I'm about to post on LinkedIn.
We got this.
All right.
Other than the fact I can't click on Q&A. I don't know wwhy it won't come up, but
maybe because you're not the host. All right, we're at 1:02, so I'm gonna post this on LinkedIn.
And then share your screen so we
Join
can
us
look at the
live.
slides.
Thank you everyone for being patient. There's nothing like being a host and kicking this off. So thank you. We will get started, I promise, in less than 30 seconds.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I literally count down. Everyone's like, man, they really need to work on getting their stuff together.
Did they prepare at all?
No. There were slides that we were supposed to do, right?
Oh, you didn't make the slides, Amanda?
One sec.
All right. I got the LinkedIn post, so we can kick off and get started. Thanks everybody for your patience and joining. Oh, we already have a Q&A. Have you presented at ShowMeCon?
Yes. Twice.
Yes. All right. Let's kick off and educate people on Windows logs. So I'm gonna hit the record button. So this will be on demand after our webinar. Thanks everybody for joining. Patrick, Amanda, and Mike here. I'm gonna share my screen and, oh wait, there's already another Q&A. I mean,
man,
I thought I recognized you. All right. We love everybody that joined.
Now tell all your friends to join.
All right. You can see my screen now?
And yeah, but you should present so they don't see all of our notes.
All right. We're talking about Windows security event logs, not Windows in your house. If you're looking for new Windows for your house, you're at the wrong place. We're joined by Amanda Berlin, Senior Incident Detection Engineer at Blue Mira, writer of some books. You should go buy them, they're good. And CEO of Mental Health Hackers. And Mike Behrman, Blue Mira's Director of Security, formerly worked at NSA. His favorite pizza is Domino's, worked there too. And a lot of other acronyms. Good stuff. He likes to listen to many podcasts.
He just wanted just as many bullet points as
yeah.
He's got more capitalized letters.
He does have way more capitalized letters than I do. You're right.
All right. So we're going to be talking about Windows security logs throughout the webinar, the relevance to threats, Windows security event log categories. I'm just going to read these all off to you. Cybersecurity applications, where the logs actually make sense to leverage and use. Some of the complexities with Windows logs, threat detection examples. So different ways that you can detect threats via Windows logs, things like reconnaissance scanning and privilege escalation and lateral movement. We'll talk through our newer tool, Log Mira, that can help with getting better visibility into Windows logs. And then they're all gonna make me pitch Blue Mira. So we'll give you a demo of the product. Sounds good?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, we're ready to go. So, hey, Mike, I got a question for you. Why are Windows security event logs relevant to cybersecurity?
Thanks for asking. They relate to cybersecurity because of the threat space we find ourselves in 2020 in the past several years. Not so much this lady who seems to be foraging or looking for a lost wedding ring, but more about...
That's how I look for logs.
Intrusion. She's not going to find many either. It's going to be great. We're talking about living off the land tactics primarily. I think that's the single most relevant element for Windows security event logs. You see this kind of living off the land behavior at all sophistication levels, the elite nation state actor to the lowly script kiddie. And Windows security logs in particular are relevant for reconnaissance, privilege escalation, and lateral movement, as we'll talk about. The whole idea with living off the land is having an attacker rely on dual use local Windows binaries, things like net.exe, the kinds of tools that you take for granted on the command line and things like that to ultimately emulate administrative behavior.
Because they're really good administrative tools.
Because they're good. It's just more work for them, right? So they get to emulate administrative behavior, which is harder to detect. It's harder to recognize compared to what's normal, what's planned, what's expected. And at the same time, they can move throughout the network from system to system based on those additional privileges and so forth.
Cool.
Good points.
So it sounds like it's an important thing to be looking at.
Very much so.
So what information can we get out of Windows security event logs?
Patrick's got amazing questions today.
Oh man,
yeah.
I'm so non-conversational. Sorry, I got like 4 hours of sleep last night because my kids woke me up. And sorry,
that's why we prep with scripted questions.
Yeah, sorry also for my like spam of registering you for another webinar, not intentional. That's what happens when you try and do marketing automation at 11:45 at night. So sorry. Back to Windows security logs.
Thank you. Windows security event logs fall into 9 different categories. The first one being account logon. To make a complex topic simple, we'll give easy to remember examples for each one of these things. Account logon would be events involving Active Directory and Kerberos-based authentication. Account management is more of what it sounds like. Account maintenance itself. Directory services would mean access to Active Directory objects. Logon events, for example, contrast with account logons are simply local system logons and logoffs. System events are when a computer starts up, tears down, clearing a security event log, things like that. Process tracking is a very underutilized security event log category, but is very relevant to things like Sysmon, for those of you that are familiar with that. So process starts, process exits, things of that nature. Privilege use, largely what it sounds like.
Oh, sorry. I gotta learn not to click.
Oh, back, there we go.
Anyway, privilege use is exactly what it sounds like. It involves how you're using permissions that you've been given as a result of a policy change, which is the one of the last things we'll talk about.
Great. So what are the real life applications where we can leverage these security event logs?
Sure. They have a number of different relevant applications. First and foremost, security operations, and that's really what Blue Mirror's bread and butter is. For one, threat detection. We make full use of security event logs to check those things like the privileged use, the lateral movement, the reconnaissance that we've sort of alluded to as well. I would term all of that intrusion analysis in general. But also it has, it's very, very relevant to digital forensic investigators too. What you see on the right side is an example of a super timeline. So quick credit out to Eric Zimmerman for his Timeline Explorer tool, Kristen Gudjonsson for Plazio and Plazo and the ability to create super timelines. But what you see is when you need a low-level authoritative raw record of something that could hold up in court or has threat detection value, Windows security event logs are an excellent choice.
So you should be looking at your Windows logs.
Yes.
As much as possible, because they're super fun. Or not really. So those of you that have never seen Event Viewer before, here is a primer on it. The picture on the left is how you get to Event Viewer. All you do is type Event Viewer. I mean, there's other ways you can get to it, right? And then on the right-hand side is just a general screenshot of what it looks like. If you've never really gotten into sysadmin level stuff, it is a giant pain to use. So I don't know if you can see because, well, my screen is super small right now. But there's over 1 million events in that specific security event viewer channel right then, and even more coming in. And that's just in a lab environment where there are only, what, like 5 or 6 boxes. So you can imagine how arduous it might be to look for an actual event in Event Viewer. There's like interesting things you can do, customized views, but you have to know what you're looking for to begin with if you don't really know where to start. It's pretty clunky as far as being able to do anything security operation wise.
Right.
On the left-hand side, you can see all of those are different channels in Windows. Starting in 2008 R2, they gave you that entire Microsoft category and everything underneath applications and services for the most part. Before, you really just had application, security, setup, system, and I don't even think you could forward events at that point. So everything went into 4 categories, and logging was terrible. But this is just an example of what that kind of looks like. And then we move on to what like the specific events look like. Gives you a whole lot of information. Also something that's not super easy to search for security events through. So this is an example of PowerShell command line logging that actually shows you every command line put into a PowerShell console on that device. And like Mike said, like PowerShell is one of those dual use binaries that is super, super powerful for admins to use, and also very super powerful to use for attacking. That is running Mimikatz through PowerShell, and all of the information that comes out of that just from the one command line being run.
This is a great example of just how verbose and unwieldy Windows security event logs are. As excellent as they are as information sources, there's a lot going on, a lot of fields, a lot of context, the payloads themselves where that's relevant. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, and the one complaint I have all the time with Event Viewer is you can't just search all of Event Viewer. You can search per channel, but now that there's like 800 channels, you have to know exactly where to go look to find some of the stuff, which can be kind of difficult. So because this one's hidden, this one is in Microsoft, Windows, PowerShell, operational. To find this kind of stuff, it's not just in the regular security channel up top, you know, in Event Viewer. And they do give you a whole lot of information, which it can be overwhelming.
Feels pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
So yeah, now that we're all overwhelmed by event logs,
let's overwhelm you some more.
Let's talk about some examples of real life threats that you can find via these event logs.
Yeah, so Mike alluded to the 3 different things that you can really, I'd say the top 3 things that you can use Windows events for is the Recon, privilege escalation, and lateral movement categories. And so the first one is password spraying that I'm going to show you. We'll do the attack first, and then what it looks like in the event logs, and then what it looks like when we can detect it. So this is password spraying. It's a really cool domain password spray PowerShell script from DaftHack. And it's super easy to run if you want to test it against your own SIM with permission, right? I'm not like saying you should go do this.
Lock out your domain.
To. Lock out your domain.
You'll make friends quickly.
Oh, yes. Yeah. But I just have a bunch of random usernames and passwords in these 2 text files. And what it does is it takes those against your domain controller and attempts the usernames and password combos in rapid succession, but not so rapid to get detected or to lock out the accounts. It has like a wait period before it tries even more. Which is nice, you know, it waits 30 minutes, so it doesn't, you know, lock out a bunch of accounts. Not saying it wouldn't anyways, depending on what your thresholds are. But this is one of those things that you can just use as a super simple PowerShell script to kind of run and attempt some recon on users. And then
You
what
just
that looks
wait.
like. Oh,
You just
sorry.
count the seconds going down
Yeah,
for
right.
30 minutes.
Yeah, I have before almost.
I
Or
don't
you
think
just
I'd have
or you
the
just
patience
close
for
it and
that.
start it again. And it'll just go. So the next slide is what it actually looks like in Event Viewer, which, all right, so there's a really good article. Gosh, who has it? I'll think of it later. Sean. Crap. I'll think of it later. Really good article that lists the different thresholds for password spraying in an environment that is normal and not normal. Like you can look for so many of a certain, so this is event ID 4625, which is account failed to log in. And you can look for a certain number of those against a certain time period to know if it's legitimate or not. Otherwise, if you don't have the ability to alert on that, you just have to, I don't know, go in and count them.
Yeah.
In the event viewer. Yeah. There's if you can't correlate that data and set thresholds in a sim, you're not going to know when somebody's attempting password spraying. I mean, I guess IPSs, IDSs have that kind of functionality too, but you also don't have those on everything or between everything. So it's nice to get it from Windows logs as well.
Yeah, and I'd add that I think when you talk about recon, privilege escalation, and lateral movement, those are three of the hardest things to track without Windows security event logs. IPSs, like you said, they attempt to find evidence of reconnaissance, but it's difficult to do, particularly if somebody goes low and slow and attempts an authentication every few minutes. You're going to exceed the window of time that network intrusion prevention system is designed to look for. Mm-hmm. Whereas our Blue Mirror product, which is featured on the right side, accounts for that. So really, three of the hardest things to track in security operations are really made possible by Windows security event logs. They're truly an invaluable source.
Yep. And the one on the right that's shown with us isn't the same password spray attempt that I attempted in our lab. It's actually, well, it's a different lab, but it's for OWA access, which your OWA server is on the internet, right? And people are password spraying against internet stuff constantly.
Yes.
And we just build in the ability to automatically block people that are doing that kind of stuff, so you don't have to worry about it.
So 2 needs to make sure that she blocks the IP address.
2's firewall better be set up correctly.
I hope
2's
so.
2's a mean security analyst, though. I have faith. I have great faith.
All right. So the next one is privilege escalation. So again, using PowerShell. If you don't work with PowerShell a whole lot, there's this thing called the execution policy. It's not necessarily made as a security feature. It's more of a safeguard so admins don't shoot themselves in the foot accidentally when running PowerShell scripts against the environment. Here, there's a bunch of different ways you can bypass it, though. A lot of people see it as a security feature. A lot of malware want it to run what they need to run. They need to get past it anyway, even though it's trivial. So a lot of the different attacks that you see have PowerShell execution bypass policy bypass. And NetSP has a really good blog that I can tweet out later that actually show you 15 different ways to get past it. And this is one of them. So
if someone doesn't know your Twitter handle, what is it?
At InfoSystir, it's INFOSYSTIR.
Sweet.
Or at PsExec, because sometimes they let me tweet from that. if I promise to behave myself.
That's the issue.
It is with my account too.
Different webinar, different time. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. That's a private webinar now. So yeah, this is me running a bypass. The first line I did get execution policy. So you see that I'm restricted and I can't run PowerShell scripts. I can't download them supposedly. One of the things that you can do is load PowerShell with no profile. That's what the dash no P means. And then this new object really is just downloading a bit.ly link that is a PowerShell script and running it, completely bypassing that execution policy. And the next screen is what it looks like in the event logs. Mike mentioned Sysmon earlier. That's the left-hand side one. Sysmon's really, really super easy to deploy. Highly recommend it to everyone with a Windows environment or Windows box anywhere. It really enriches your logs and gives you stuff that native Windows can't give you.
Free endpoint detection response.
For
it does
free.
It better than a lot of the paid ones.
And
frankly.
literally
So.
it takes a minute, if that, because you have to download the exe, and there's like 2 commands on the command line to run it. And then you copy over a config file. That's super easy. And that gives you a whole lot more information. On the right-hand side is the native Windows event ID through PowerShell auditing. Also something that's not turned on by default. You have to go and set a couple different things in Active Directory GPOs to get that to work. But that is...
Amanda, do you have a utility available anywhere?
I might.
I
might. We can cover that in a little bit.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, so by default, I can cover this later too. By default, Windows gives you really crap logging.
Yes.
Very, very bad. Yeah, it doesn't really detect anything security wise. So, and then this is what it looks like. Oh, wait a minute, I am on the wrong. There we go. This is what it looks like in Blue Mirror. You can see this is actually an example from a real live PowerShell dropper attack that we caught with a customer. That's why all the little redacted black boxes are there. Somebody got onto one of their web servers, ran pretty much that exact command, just with a different bit.ly link that was pointed to another compromised web server to download some not so great stuff. And we were able to detect that and show them what the entire command line was and what to do to go fix it. And then number 3 is lateral movement. This one, I don't know, Mike, what do you think? I think one of the harder things to detect in an environment, just because there's so many flat networks.
Yeah, and I think we find ourselves, like a lot of people, a lot of defenders out there, constantly having to correlate this kind of thing with our customers. And because it is an administrative tool, shout out to Mark Vasanovich, call me. But
fanboy.
It's great for remote code execution, and so it has a lot of implications for intrusions. And at the same time, like I said, it's emulative of legitimate administrative behavior, not recommended, but it's a reality out there.
All right, so this is PsExec. Oh, don't go yet, Patrick. Go back.
Oh my gosh, sorry, so many clicks.
Yeah, right one. All right, yeah. So this is PsExec, and even if there is a flat network with Windows logs, you can alert on this type of activity. It's difficult if you use PsExec everywhere, but there's ways around it, right? So this is me on our server 01, The first line is running the PsExec command and connecting to our DC. And I want to run CMD, which is going to open up a command prompt for me remotely. So hit enter. The first thing, and then it comes up, see Windows System 32. I want to know who I am on that device. So you can type who am I, and it tells you who you're remotely logged in as. And then a lot of times, going back to our recon type stuff, net users is one of the first things that an attacker will do once they get on a system, because they can use it later for privilege escalation, because it shows you what users are on that box, right? So you can see my account, administrator, the built-in ones. We have blah test. So it gives, you know, that recon stage more information. And that's basically just to connect from one box to another, which is lateral movement. And so the next one are the different events again, with Sysmon and the advanced auditing. And I don't have to walk through all of that again because I kind of covered what that means. And my favorite part of the screenshot is the super important attack of the Mando that Mike decided to put on this morning.
Dude, Vladimir's our responder too. I take a moment out of his busy day running the Russian Federation to assist me as a responder. I appreciate it.
Yeah. You know, certain things are important to him. Lateral movement is one of them.
He gives and he gives and he gives. And the pictures.
Amazing. Yeah, so this is
the shirtless trout fishing anyone?
Yeah, so this is some of the information you can get from lateral movement. Even if you have a flat network, you can see this kind of activity just by using Windows logs. All right.
Hey, but before we go to the next question, this is good, by the way. Someone actually had a question, and I got to pause the screen to see it and go over. What's the name of the program used on logging? I think that might be Sysmon is what they're referring to. It's kind of a generic question.
Used on logging.
Yeah, maybe Sysmon.
Sysmon's one answer.
Maybe
sure.
If that's not what you're looking for.
Whoever's asking, maybe ask a different way or ask for a little bit more detail.
Sysmon's part of the sysinternals utility set that Mark Rasanovich published.
You really like that Mark guy today.
He does, I'm telling
you.
He's
not returning my calls anymore though, so I don't know. I might have done something wrong.
He may have blocked him on Twitter.
Let's talk a little bit more as far as why wouldn't you do all this yourself as far as looking at Windows logs? Hey, and first off, does anybody know who this guy is? Does
Sports ball reference.
If you can say who this is, because none of us knew.
No, Mike? Who did I think this was? The dude from Princess Bride.
You thought it was Mel Brooks.
I thought it was Mel Brooks. It looks like Mel Brooks.
This is the venerable Lee Corso, everybody's favorite sports ball analyst, over the hill sports ball analyst, famous for saying "not so fast, my friend." So we've touched on it through the duration of the slideshow. These logs are invaluable. They're essential for security operations. And they're gory. They're gory to work with, or innumerable, as a very intelligent person I know might say. They're painful to view. They're difficult to interpret. They're not easy to work with. And most of all, really the value, and Mando touched on this, the optimal value comes when they're aggregated together. And that's something that Event Viewer doesn't do well, if at all. You really need to be able to link one event to another, or a series of events over a time window. In the case of reconnaissance, they're not easy to work with. That's the bottom line.
You're throwing out all these big words, man.
Indeed.
You
I
use the
am.
full reconnaissance instead of recon. Innumerable.
Raconteur? Yes.
We need some.
Hey, and
bigger
Mike,
words.
to be fair, the only person that got the answer right was a sales guy from Blue Mirror that's on the call. So
I like that guy. I like that guy.
That's funny. Good job.
See,
Everybody loves it. Everybody
Ronnie
loves that
agrees.
person.
He agrees. It's Mel Brooks.
Hey, and
Hands down.
I got additional context on the question earlier around the logs. The program that displays more info than the usual event viewer.
Yeah.
Blue Mirror?
Okay.
What was the answer? Blue Mirror.
The answer is always Blue Mirror. No, it's Sysmon. It's Sysmon. And Swift on Security has a super good Sysmon config
Yes.
file. If you type in Sysmon, I think hers might be like above the Microsoft link.
Is that her? I didn't know that.
Well,
Is that like the royal
Swift,
her sort of thing?
Swift
or
is
no?
Swift is a girl. Swift
And
on
another
Security
question is
not.
what is the requirements to be a defender?
I think
Skills.
we might have different answers, Mike.
Girls like skills.
Girls like skills and scars. Chicks dig scars. Emotional is what I go for, though.
Emotionally unavailability, things like that. No, really, there's a lot of ways to answer that question, but good defenders come from really different backgrounds. I think it's, in all seriousness, I come from actually a liberal arts background in the beginning, and got too much schooling and ended up as a blue team guy. Other people start as computer programmers. Other people start on the penetration testing side and shift over. The truth is, good defenders come from all different kinds of backgrounds. Good answer.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. I, on the other hand, only had 2 years of schooling.
That's fine.
And still ended up here.
And you're still delivering webinars. That's winning.
But that was a long time ago. So I didn't really learn anything in school other than the fact that I like to do technical writing. I bombed most of my computer classes.
Yep.
But then I honestly think some of the better things that you can use to be a defender are base knowledge. I started a Twitter hashtag a while back. I can't remember what it was, but it was basically like the things that are base knowledge when being in security in general. Things like knowing basic networking, because you can't really understand what's happening if you don't. Same thing with how Windows environments work. How DNS works is a big one. I think a lot of that basic knowledge is definitely a requirement to be a good defender.
Airtight fundamentals. Fundamentals.
Yep.
And some want to, which is how I interpreted your answer, Amanda. You wanted to learn DNS, you wanted to learn networking, and you did it. The information's available. It's not closed source. It's open access. That's what's great about cybersecurity. The
first tech book I ever read outside of college was O'Reilly's DNS and Bind, 4th edition.
Wow. That's fun.
That sounds painful, but
yeah,
it was.
I loved it, but
collection.
On to collection. We're never going to finish this webinar.
As with any log source, collection comes into play too, particularly if you're going to use a separate technology to interpret, aggregate, and make best use of those Windows security event logs. So a couple quick notes here. The file format, the file extension specifically, changed over time. 2K3 down to 2K. You had the EVT format located in the config folder in System 32. But beginning with 2K8, you had the security EVTX file extension in a slightly different folder. And that's also where we recommend NXLog when we like that stuff. Man. But it's not.
Sorry, I'm really having click problems today. My mouse is super sensitive.
One of the things we recommend to a lot of our customers is something called NXLog, which has a free version called Community Edition, which is outstanding for Windows log ingestion, including Sysmon, but also Windows Firewall and Windows IIS logs themselves. So it's a bit of a catch-all, very, very, very flexible, excellent documentation. Like I said, we recommend it to our customers every day.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I got a question because I just want to throw you a curveball. That's what I do.
Cool.
How does Windows Defender fit into all this?
That's a good question. Amanda, take this. You take this.
No.
First.
Oh, I hate Windows Defender. I love Windows Defender. All right. I just have to say, I love Windows Defender. They are super good at detecting things, like just because of the ability to tie in to it, the operating system, because it's their product. But as far as logging goes, I'm just going to stop.
Yeah.
It's there. The logging's there. It's just.
Right. That's the interesting thing about Windows security event logs is that it's really about auditing behaviors and events and things like that. And it's not, I think Windows Defender logs probably technically fall into the Windows security category, but actually it's about auditing, which from our perspective as blue team people means coverage, right? We want that visibility into what's going on at a low level. And because attackers are using these kinds of things all the time.
Cool.
All right, next slide.
Log Mira, what? GPO?
All right, next slide. We probably don't even need to do this one. So I made this thing called Log Mira because, just go to the next one. So I was talking about all of those, the fact that Windows has the ability to log all of this stuff, and everything that we showed you showed up in our event log. That's because we configured it all to do so. If you just have a Windows domain and you haven't turned on any of the audit logging policies, you don't get anything. This is only part of baseline recommendations that you have to turn on in a GPO for all of those logs to exist. And so by the time I had set up I don't know, my 5th or 6th lab, I was really tired of going and making all of these GPO add-ons. So I thought there has to be an easier way. You should be able to script this something. Well, it turns out you can't. I thought PowerShell, right? PowerShell can do anything. Maybe I can just create a GPO with PowerShell. You can't. To set these settings using a PowerShell script, all it does is change the registry entries on the local box. It doesn't actually create a GPO, which you have to then know what all of the correct spots and settings are for each single one of these and not mess up the registry.
Don't they call this job security?
Right. So instead, I made this thing. I just took all of my logging recommendations and put them into one GPO, and our marketing people wanted to call it Log Mira. So that's what we have. This is like a walkthrough of how to do it. Did you want me to go through?
Sure, talk through it.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
well, I can't effing see anything. All right. So this part is what I had to do. Basically, I'm just making a backup of the GPO, which is super simple. All you have to do is right click on it and save it to somewhere. So look, all the little words come up. You could really just read it and not listen to me, but that's okay.
Some tight mouse work there too, by the way.
Right?
Surgical.
Oh yeah, because I taped myself several times. So that's the backup file. And then since it's the lab and I'm already connected to everything, I'm just going to connect to the other domain that we have. So the first one's bluelab.dev. The second one's imaginary.local. And I'm just copying over this backup file to the desktop. Ta-da! That's how you copy things. So over on the new domain, drag and drop. Over on the new domain, I just needed to make sure which backup I wanted to use. Side note, this is the part that was missing from most documentation that I read online, which is why it took me forever to figure it out. But you have to create a blank GPO, not a blank one. You have to create a new GPO. You can't use the default one to import a backup over top of. So you could technically do this with any non-default GPO, but it's going to rewrite all of your settings. Not great. So you'll want to create a blank GPO and take our backup and put it on over top of it. And so I think we cover it maybe later, but you can find that backup file and everything that's in it on our GitHub. I put the results XML up there so you can actually see all of the settings that are in the zip file. If you don't trust me, just do it in a lab environment first, and you can verify it by looking at the policy yourself. But it is way easier to just right-click and import as opposed to setting, 100 different things in a group policy.
Sweet.
Yay.
That's nice.
There's a lot of talking.
Make it easier for everyone else. How many times did you set those settings before you decided to make this GPO template?
Countless number. Countless. Because we had different labs at the last place I worked and here and on my laptop and for my training. And yeah. Way too many times. Way too many times.
That's awesome. No, so thank you. Why don't I take a few moments just to hop into give an overview of Blue Mira, and then we have some links towards the end as far as the different tools, and I'll talk about some of the next webinars we have coming up. In regards to, man, we're really getting animation right on these slides. In regards to Blue Mira, just high level.
You betcha.
Yeah. So basically, if you think about this and how it applies to Windows logs, with Blue Mira, essentially we're doing ingestion, parsing, threat intelligence, detection rules, alerting, prioritization, doing this in an automated way. So when you do send Windows logs to the Blue Mira service, essentially then we're going to surface threats detected, and not only Windows, but really anything within your environment related to security. And then the question is, can it be automated, or does it need to be validated by a person, investigator, responded to? In the instance, it can be automated, right? The idea is to take action. And then in instance it can't, providing a playbook as far as how to respond is some of the examples that we showed earlier regarding the Windows log detections. We do integrate across the product stack. So whether it's Windows Server, Linux, your productivity suites, your identity products like Active Directory, your endpoint tools, and your firewall, and much more. So let me hop and give the few second demo. Apparently I have a message from David. And I'll show you how this works from a tool.
Mike, how do we get things to pop up on Patrick's screen during this live demo?
Yeah, I'm navigating. Quickly message him on LinkedIn right now.
Good times. That reminds me of the time like I accidentally put my password in my Twitter account. Like I was trying to log into my computer and not realizing I was in Twitter, and then my
does your password look like a Bitcoin address?
Yeah, maybe.
You want to double your money? Let me know.
I loved it. My wife was like, "Did Kim Kardashian's account really get hacked?"
Oh wow!
It's like, yeah, it did. How else am I going to respond to that? So yeah, real quickly on the Blue Mira side, right? What we're looking at here is an example where we have a sensor within a customer's environment, and the NX log would essentially push logs to the sensor itself to Blue Mira's service. And then we would immediately start detecting for threats from those Windows logs. And then from a responder view perspective, what we're going to see here is some different types of examples of threats. And I have a few different examples we can scroll through. But first off, hey, a new domain administrator account's created. good example of got access to an environment. So in this instance, I'm going to determine that this user states they were unaware how the account was created. And when I do that, it's going to turn this from a suspect, and it's going to escalate it and open a new ticket into a threat. From a notification perspective, then you're going to see notifications based on how you're configured, whether it's voice, text, or email, and the priority. I don't like to get any alerts. Demo account, of course, if that makes sense. So, and I don't want to give you my phone number either. Although it's on LinkedIn if you really want to get it. And so here we have rogue domain administrator account, and I can assign that to myself, and it gives me the PowerShell script. And then you can see the matched evidence down below as far as what we're using to identify and the analysis of what the reason is why this threat is happening. So pretty easy as far as knowing what to do, how to respond. I can copy this PowerShell script and run it and resolve the issue. So that's one example, and then I'll scroll down here and just hop through, show one more. And in the context of what we talked a little bit about earlier, which was password spraying detections. In this instance, we're noticing password spraying from Outlook Web Access in the IP address it's coming from. So in this instance, I could actually block the source IP addresses, and I'm going to resolve the finding. It adds the IP addresses to a block list automatically via your next-gen firewalls. And then you could also configure this to be automated from a detection and response capability so that it automatically happens without you actually having to do anything. I mean, that's kind of the goal. You can focus on the things that are going to be more important from a priority perspective. So hopefully that gives some insight as far as how Blue Mirror can help in a few different examples. There are some other cool things beyond just identifying threats. So identifying risk within an environment. So things like detecting SMB or RDP connections from external IP addresses. Wouldn't that be nice? Make sure you can close those ports is a good example. So that's my quick and dirty overview. If you want to spend some more time and get to know Blue Mirror from a product perspective, happy to schedule some time with anybody that's on the call today. All right.
For people that aren't on the call.
And we got some questions, so we should see. How do you get inspired to do this stuff? I think that's related to the Windows logging. Well, you just buy Blue Mirror.
Inspiration comes from a lot of weird places. Mine is just so I don't have to be alone with my own thoughts.
Oh, that's
I'd say we talk about what we're passionate about, and it can, time and again, it's like it involves a lot of economical security solutions like Sysmon, like Windows Security Event Logs that in and of themselves carry no cost but provide a lot of security value.
And I like helping people.
I was going to go back to presentation mode, but no, that's good. Helping people is the best. I mean,
that's why I got into IT in general. So like fixing things. Yeah.
Oh.
I wasn't being a smart ass, I promise.
And being able to do stuff like providing free logging tools for people is excellent. So I did promise we were going to provide some links to the Log Mirror tool. You can get it if you go to our blog. You can look up more details on it. The GitHub link, Blue Mirror / Log Mirror. There's also some interesting blog posts. I don't know if y'all want to talk about this, but how to enable Sysmon is a great example of.
Who's that guy? What's he doing in here?
It's my wife.
There's a home intrusion going on right now, and we're not even talking about it. I don't know.
I'm on a webinar. They were asking you what that person is doing.
Hey,
I love you. Everybody says hi.
Hi.
COVID.
That's my wife. She's changing the trash.
I'm just super happy that all the roofers went to lunch. Otherwise, it would have been a very noisy webinar.
And they're not screaming about getting stung by wasps. Yeah. Things to be thankful
Nope.
for.
Hey, any other free Windows resources and tools out there we should be talking about for people on the call?
We also mentioned NXLog. That's free.
Mhm.
That's good. The community edition is
Nextlog,
great.
Sysmon.
Bobolux.
Windows Defender.
Free. PowerShell's free. Windows
I
Defender.
mean, is Windows Defender free? Because you still have to pay for Windows.
That's a fair point. It's a fair point. And you're
Free-
ending up with just a
free-ish.
signature-based antivirus.
Free-ish.
Free-ish.
I mean, don't you have to pay for Windows to run Sysmon?
Shit.
All right. Thanks for
Maybe
thanks everybody
not
for-
NXLog. NXLog also works on Linux.
All right. You got us there. So thank you so much, Mike and Amanda, for putting this content together. Thanks everybody for joining us. We do have a webinar coming up in a few weeks on does your SIM actually work and how to test it for top 5 detection. So we would love to have you join. If you do have any questions, feel free to go to Blumira, send any inquiries our way. We're happy to hop on a call with you, talk about product, talk about Windows. Thanks again so much. Any last items?
They said you signed them up already.
Oh yeah, sorry for signing everybody up for the webinar. I canceled it. I felt bad.
Everybody's doing it.
All right, we'll see you there.
Have a good one.
Bye.
That's a wrap.